It is almost 2026.
Yeah.
You ready?
No,
No. Same.
not at all.
Same. Hey, everybody.
Hi.
Hi. Welcome to another week of Case Files with Kat.
And Ashley.
We are living the life. Living La Vida Loca.
Yeah. I wish I could say I've had 2 weeks off like a lot of people, but
Nope. But nope. You know what I did the 1 week I was off? You know what I did? I deep cleaned my house.
nice.
And then I got sick doing it.
Nice. I took Christmas off, but I was cooking most of the day. But yeah.
Well, was it nice though? I mean, like, was it good? No.
I mean,
Okay.
it was just another day. It wasn't Halloween.
It wasn't Halloween.
Anyway,
Halloween's so much
I just
better.
laid around a lot. But yeah, I've been working every day.
Yeah,
Don't ever start your own business, guys. It's a trap.
it's a trap.
It's a trap.
Sorry, and they keep emailing you. Hey,
No,
can you
no,
change
it's
this?
not you.
Sorry.
It's not you.
Okay,
I
good.
promise.
That was just my way of finding out if it was me.
No. I would. You would have heard about it by now.
Okay, good. Good.
Anyway, my support kitty has shown up.
Oh, yep.
Support kitty number 1.
You got one. He's very needy tonight. Louis is.
Anyways, now that we've
So
given
you're
everyone away.
you are drinking tonight.
I'm drinking. I wasn't going to, but then I was strongly advised upon sitting down that I needed a strong drink. So they poured me a scotch with a fancy ice cube.
No, it's fancy.
I love it.
It's not so much. We're not forcing you.
Okay,
We just
every
think
time I come over here,
we just think you would enjoy the episode.
better if I don't remember it.
Right. That part.
Perfect. I enjoy much of life better when I don't remember it. So that is perfect for me.
All those moments that you don't remember, they were great.
They were, if I don't remember them, they were amazing.
They were 10 out of 10. Okay. So, I'm just going to get into it.
Okay, great.
I mean, let's just do
I'm
it.
here for it.
All right. My brain's going to explode with information, so
Okay.
I'm ready. This one does require a full-on content warning.
Okay.
So I'm going to read that now, which
Okay.
it's not my usual, trigger warning, lots of stuff. This is a content warning. This episode includes discussion of coercive control, sexual exploitation, emotional and psychological abuse, financial manipulation, and trauma. There will also be frequent, direct references to female genitalia, as this is necessary to explain the practices at the center of this case. If any of this makes you uncomfortable or activates you, please take care while listening. Resources are available in our show notes. That is my content warning.
Okay.
Please take heed. When I say frequent and direct references to female genitalia, I am not lying. Okay. So, today's story. I'm just staring at Ashley like I'm not really even sure where to start, and I have a script. So I'm going to stick to my script.
Okay.
All right.
I'm ready.
So today's story is one where reactions tend to be immediate. Some people hear about it and they think, that sounds like a cult. Others think, that sounds like people being uncomfortable with sex. All right. And the truth is, it's just not that simple. This episode is about OneTaste, a company that described itself as focused on sexual wellness and women's empowerment.
Oh, shit. It's this episode. Okay. I
Yes.
did get a pre-warning for this, guys, last week. So I've been being warned about this for like 2 weeks. So I would really take her warning to heart if you are already feeling uncomfortable.
I asked for permission first before doing this, and Ashley reminded me I've done really, really crazy episodes, but this one, because it's so focused on
yeah,
this
it's
one
really
on
weird.
on women's genitalia, like this is like very much
Yeah.
we're gonna hear a lot about it. Anyway, if that's not your bag, I would say we'll see you next week. So this episode, like I said, it's about OneTaste. that describes itself as sexual wellness and women's empowerment, but it's also about its founder, Nicole Daedone, and who federal prosecutors say built a system that crossed the line into coercion and forced labor. Because what could go wrong?
Right.
This is not a story about whether sex is good or bad. It's not about kink or non-traditional relationships or being open-minded enough. It's a story about power, pressure, and what consent looks like when the environment itself is doing the persuading. Which is that's deep.
Yeah.
That's deep. So here's a little background on Nicole Daedone. So before OneTaste ever existed, Nicole Daedone was already a person with a multi-layered life story. This woman lived. So I will get into how her early experiences sort of set the stage for who she was to become. Nicole Daedone was born August 24th, 1967 in Los Gatos, California. It's spelled Los Gatos, the cats.
Okay.
The cats. But it's Los Gatos, because they don't know how to pronounce things, and was raised by a single mother. Her formal education included a bachelor's degree in gender communications and semantics.
Okay. Did not know that was
a thing. From San Francisco State University. I used to work right around the corner from there, which she earned in the mid-1990s. She's just a few years older than me, and we are living in the same place at the same time. That's just crazy.
Just think you could have.
I know.
Been a story.
I know. After college, she experimented with a variety of work and life paths, including opening an art gallery, and she also worked as a waitress. It gets more varied.
Yeah.
Just wait. What's my thing? So her early adulthood involved exploration, both personally and intellectually. She studied with teachers of yoga and Buddhist meditation. She even decided to become a Buddhist nun.
Oh, okay.
And this was her life path right before she started OneTaste. It was like, I'm about to become a nun in the Buddhist monastery, right? And then one night changes everything.
Wow.
She spent time with intentional communities that blended sexuality and spiritual exploration. At one point, she lived with the Welcomed Consensus. This is a communal group connected to the Lafayette Morehouse, which regarded itself as a community of people exploring sexuality and sensual experience. Both groups focused on the study and practice of sensuality, communal living, and the deliberate orgasm or doing technique, which they teach to the public through courses. This was sort of the this was the base of what Nicole Daedone started to teach. She saw this, but as like the way that the Morehouse and the Welcome Consensus sort of ran, it was very male centered.
Yeah.
It was sort of like the people who had been there for a long time, and there weren't new younger people, and there weren't a lot of women. And so she ended up in this house, and in this world. And she was like, this could be big if it were focused on women, right? So it was sort of like, this was the initial teaching. Her experiences were not strictly academic or detached. There were reported mentions, including in both Empire of Orgasm and in documentary footage of her, that Daedone discussing her difficult childhood and her father's criminal history. So according to accounts associated with the Netflix documentary Orgasm Inc., came out in 2022, and reporting about Empire of Orgasm, the book by Ellen Hewitt. Ellen Hewitt is a Bloomberg reporter, and she was the first person to really crack the case. In 2018, she wrote a story on Bloomberg. Excuse me. And that sort of like was the impetus to this, people finding out about them.
Yeah.
I think it was 2017, maybe. Anyway, I can't remember. Anyway, so Daedone's father was a convicted sex offender, who abused children. And she admits to having been abused by her father. And she spoke on stage about using aspects of sexual practice, including orgasmic meditation, which is what she created, in her own process of forgiving or releasing anger about that history. Now, in Empire of Orgasm, the book, she lays out sort of a, at the very, very beginning, the early onset, she's saying, there's no sense of victimhood. This is like a very sticky point, where she basically blamed herself or took responsibility for her father's abuse.
Wow.
That she wanted him. She wanted to be near him, and she remembers the feeling of his erection and how she was drawn to it, and that she said, like any sexual experience thereafter, she was sort of always chasing her father, chasing the experience with her father.
You cannot waterboard that information out of me ever.
What do you mean?
Being like remembering my father's erection and like chasing that for the rest of my life.
Like like she was like, I wanted him. I straddled him.
Yeah. Like, you would never get that out of me.
I am the reason. I I was a sexy 7-year-old. I don't know how old she was, but she just is basically saying, I wasn't a victim. I have.
So she's saying that it was her, like on her, that this happened.
That she's saying that all women should take their sexual power back and say, I'm not a victim because I had a part in my assault.
What an interesting take. I get taking your power back, but to say that you played a part in your sexual assault is a lot.
Like, if you own your sexuality, like, you can't rape if I'm turned on. You can't rape me. And she said, like, this, she says this on stage. She says it. She was like, yeah. I had, she was a stripper. She was like, I had, was it when she was a stripper or was it when she was an escort? She was a very high paid escort too. But that someone put a knife to her throat, and rather than be scared, she got super sexy and super sensual. She goes, how did you know I liked that? So it took away his power over her, right? Okay. A turned on woman can't be raped.
Oh, okay. I guess.
I guess.
I don't know what to say here.
I don't know what to say.
I'm not trying to offend anybody by anything I say. So.
No, I mean, this is just the facts. Yeah. And she says she loved pushing those buttons, right? Yeah. She said, all I got, I was raped and all I got with this was this victim story. And I'm like, oof. So she kind of stopped talking about that after it didn't really like
resonate with a lot of people.
Yeah, there were a lot of people who were like, maybe don't talk about that so much. Maybe let's go around that story. Let's figure it out. Like she, yeah. PR people got involved. So that's a sticky point for sure. Anyway, her early work life also included, like I said, a brief stint as a stripper and a very well-paid escort, something she has acknowledged in previous media profiles that have been done about her. And that period, like the meditation community she joined, exposed her to alternative ways about thinking of thinking about sex and intimacy and empowerment. And she learned by doing this work how to read people, how to, what does my client actually want? I'm being hired, but is it just to talk or cry or hug or, so she could start to read people and sort of see what it was that they were missing and looking for to use later. Wow. I mean, imagine what that training can do for you.
Yeah.
If you're deciding to have a cult.
Yeah.
So, sorry. Daedone also recounted experiences with psychedelics. She lived in what she called the acid house for a while and just did acid all the time. And countercultural scenes, including time in alternative communities and experimental living situations. So like lots of communal living. So she got that idea. These experiences weren't isolated for her. It was almost like they were building blocks. They were a part of a broader pattern of seeking meaning outside of conventional structures, whether in meditation or communal living or sexual expression. That was her pattern. It had to be different than the status quo. That was too boring, too vanilla for her. So taken together, these formative years show a person who was constantly testing the edges of experience, like intellectually, spiritually, sexually, all of that. She didn't come out of a traditional academic or therapeutic background. She came out of these alternative movements. And in the Bay Area during that time, it was very popular. You know, the Silicon Valley, the tech folks always looking for that self-help wellness. I mean, the wellness space is a multi-billion-dollar space, right?
Yeah.
Look at Goop.
Yeah.
So this was the breeding ground for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that context matters, right? It helps explain why when she encountered or developed the practice that would become orgasmic meditation or OM, she didn't shrink from its sexual nature, right? She embraced it. To Nicole, OM wasn't a technique. It was a tool of transformation rooted in the belief that sexual embodiment could be as fundamental to human growth as meditation and mindfulness. She was certain that we would have yoga, meditation, and orgasm be just as all the same mainstream. She thought she could do it. So when she co-founded OneTaste in 2004, that belief became central to the company's messaging. That orgasmic meditation could help heal trauma, build connection, and unlock personal potential. And she's not wrong. That's not you know, there's it's not wrong.
Yeah.
You know, if you take just that bit of nugget of information and what she was trying to teach, if you just take that and take away all the other BS, like people could really learn something. Like it does, and I will get into why that's the truth. But anyway, okay, so. But the very things that made her message powerful to some, her focus on liberation, her confidence, her framing of sexual experience as spiritual, also set the stage for the controversies that would follow 100%. So what was OneTaste? OneTaste was founded in the mid-2000s and centered on a practice called orgasmic meditation, or OM. So OM was described as a structured 15-minute partnered practice focused on stimulating a woman's clitoris in a very specific way. Now, a woman would be naked from the waist down, and she would be laid down on a nest. They called it a nest. So basically, it was a yoga mat, pillows, on either side, where your knees would be open. You'd sort of butterfly. A woman would be there, butterflied open. Her feet together, knees would fall over. There'd be cushions underneath there, cushions underneath her head. There would be, a male OM partner, always a male, no, sometimes female, but mostly male OM partner that would have latex gloves. They would have lube available. And this is when I'm going to start to get a little thing. If anyone's going to try to be as technical as possible. This is uncomfortable to talk about. So the partner would then ask the female if she would like to ohm. She would say yes, and then she would get ready to do that. He would also get ready. And on his thumb and on his left thumb and right index finger would have little bits of lube and would touch the woman like on as a grounding, sort of like on her thighs, on her, just like I'm here, there's a connection there.
Yeah.
There would be a timer set for 15 minutes, and the left hand would be sort of cupped like this. I don't know. I'm having a hard time. And the index finger of the other hand would basically go up and down and up and down on the left hand quadrant.
And this was the meditation.
For 15 minutes, because on the left hand side, there's over 10,000 nerve endings on the left side of the clitoris.
Yeah.
Over 10,000 nerve endings, more than anywhere else on the body. And that's sort of what they call the root of the clitoris. And so that would sort of bring this electricity. And it's not about the finishing. It's not about the actual orgasm itself. It's 15 minutes of getting up there, plateauing, and bringing them down. And so there's never quite that finish. There could be maybe at the end, but that's not the point.
That wasn't the point. Yeah.
The point is for the woman to sit there and get out of their head. There's you don't feel anything anymore. There's no more, am I doing this right? This is taking too long. Do I look sexy enough? Because that's not the point. The point is to sort of get out of your head enough to actually enjoy what is happening. And part of that is hearing from the male partner, looking at your labia and your vulva and describing it and saying that, you're I can see this, I can see that this is the color, this is what just very factual.
They had to describe it.
There's a like, oh, I can see you're getting swollen,
I just can't imagine like how that would be therapeutic to me.
Sounds like a nightmare.
Truly, to me, I'm sorry if that sounds enjoyable to you. I'm not judging you. Okay, I'm really not. But to me, that sounds like a nightmare for me.
I had to go to therapy to talk about this. I'm like, okay, so I'm reading this book and I'm having issues because that sounds like a nightmare. And
I was kind of like, I could see how this would be therapeutic until you're like, oh, they describe exactly what's happening.
No, but they're not. It's just sort of like it's almost like being seen in the way that these women who were like, first of all, like in several documentaries, Vice has one, there are all these different interviews with people who were a part of OneTaste. And when they talk about this period of first figuring out like what OneTaste was and going to their first ohm and having their first ohm, they're like, who is this person doing it? I don't even know him. And he's telling me that my labia look pink and he can see glistening on my hood of my clitoris. And I'm just like, that just sounds like a nightmare. And she's like, and at that point, because you're already open, you're already there, she's like, I felt seen and then it was comfortable. And maybe because it was someone who didn't know her, there's no skin off your back, right? You don't know this person, but they're giving you chance at 15 minutes of meditation. And what they're getting is this ability to connect with a woman and learn how to read her and learn things. I mean, that's like, a nonverbal communication.
Yeah.
And the men who are interviewed are going in going, I don't even know that I could find the clitoris. Like, what is that? And what am I looking at? Right. There were grown Silicon Valley rich men who went in there going, I didn't know what I was doing. And they go in learning so much and being able to please a woman in a way that they had never been able to, and that was important for them.
Yeah.
Now there's so many issues. There's so many issues, but one of the things that I think for me ended up like after reading all of this, like you had to switch partners, and monogamy wasn't really like a thing, and I'm not super down with that. Like why can't a couple?
Yeah, why couldn't I would think that that would be good for therapeutic for a couple.
Right. And then if a lesbian couple came in, they would be encouraged to participate, to own with men. And I just, there were so many issues with that. Like, why? Why? And it was a money-making issue.
Yeah.
That's why. Because more men were coming in than women seeking that. Like women seeking, I guess.
I wish I could say I was shocked.
But but it wasn't zero.
Yeah,
it wasn't zero, but it's just men outnumbered.
Yeah.
Right. And coming off the street to a class, you know what I mean? And so they outnumbered. I think had they not tried to grow so fast, and they still exist, they're still around. But if they hadn't tried to do all the things that they were trying to do in such a short amount of time, I think more women would have found them. Because she was on Goop, she was on the podcast, she was on, she had a TED Talk, she had, she was growing the brand.
Yeah.
And what her goal was to make this about women and women's empowerment and women's health. And I think it would have taken time to get a lot more women on board. But I mean, when I tell you what it is, all in all, okay.
Yeah, if you don't talk about the bad stuff, it sounds like a pretty sweet deal, right?
Right.
You just
15 minutes a day, more than once, sure, why not?
Yeah, like it's hard to see the downside at this point, right? I know that worse is coming, but I'm just saying, like, to me, that's not a hard sell to get someone to join your movement. I won't call it, I guess it was a cult, but like, it wasn't portrayed as that. It was like a woman empowerment movement.
It's a movement. Thing. Absolutely. Yeah. It was a movement.
And I would think it would be very easy, not knowing the bad things that are coming or whatever. It would be very easy to get people to be like, oh, well, why wouldn't I want to do that on either party, male or female, They tried to have the male version of an ohm, but it just became, it was a hand job. Yeah.
Yeah. Like there's no.
Yeah.
There is what they call an orgasm gap. Women in relationships tend to have fewer orgasms than their male counterparts. And so was sort of her like, imagine if we could close that gap, if women could have deeper intimacy, heal their trauma, and help women reconnect with their bodies.
See, I can see how it would be very easy to get people to be on board with this.
100%. 100%. Like, yes, 100%.
I do think she could have chosen a different name other than OneTaste.
Well, it came from like a Buddhist
Sure.
writing, like it's a whole thing. Okay, so for many women, especially those who felt disconnected from their sexuality, that message of reconnecting with your body and healing from trauma and all of that, it landed hard in a good way. And OneTaste grew so quickly. It expanded to multiple cities, charged thousands of dollars for courses and retreats, $36,000 for like a week retreat.
But did women have to pay? So men and women had to pay to be a part of the normal therapy sessions.
So, the oming? No, women generally didn't have to pay.
But men paid.
Men paid.
Okay.
And generally women didn't have to pay for like
that.
the classes and stuff, like, because they wanted women to come in,
right, to draw them in.
So, but still, it was.
I was just curious if they had to pay to.
But they were attracting the rich men to bankroll the operation. So there's even like a $60,000 a year membership or something.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I mean, like they were.
She's genius.
I mean, she's not dumb. So to participants, it wasn't just a class, it was a path. So I'm going to put a little bit of Nicole's TEDx talk here.
Now, I don't like anything, I really, really don't like anything woo-woo, okay? So I'm going to describe it in the simplest way I can possibly think. Both people are putting their attention on the same point. It's a fairly intense point, mind you. They're putting their attention on this intense point, and then, just like a master chess player would get absorbed in a chess game, or perhaps an Olympic athlete would get absorbed in their practice, or a breathing meditator would get absorbed. You get absorbed into that place. The only difference is that you get to be absorbed there with your partner. You get to have this most profound and deep experience with another human being. So, mind you, I've met with some skepticism. People have called my life's practice diddling. They've called it mutual masturbation. But the challenge is that I can't get mad at them because I too am a skeptic. I was an academic. I prided myself on my ability to say no. I prided myself on my critical thinking. And there is no way you ever, ever, ever could have convinced me to try this thing. What happened was I tried it and that convinced me. So that's what I say to people when they come into my office. I say, just try it. I mean, really, the worst thing you have to lose is 15 minutes of your life. The best thing you have to lose is that sense of hopelessness that you will ever be reached deep inside. So, I've said about this journey. And I can tell you that there was a moment when I received a stroke that could never be taken back. It was a stroke where I knew that I had been returned to my birthright of my capacity to perceive and receive pleasure. Now, this is often a complete shock to women when they come in. When I say, just try orgasm. Now, mind you, it's not that much of a shock to the pharmaceutical companies. They've been spending the past 10 years creating the next female Viagra, right? And for the DSM-5, they've proposed hypoactive female sexuality desire disorder. Now, I don't think that it's hypoactive female sexuality desire disorder, but I do think we have a pleasure deficit disorder in this country. And I don't think that it's medical. I think it's a cultural issue. I do think, though, that there is a cure, and that cure is orgasm. But it's going to be a very different definition of orgasm than we know. It's not going to be that fleeting moment of climax that seems to take the whole rest of the act hostage. It's going to be a definition of orgasm that actually works with a woman's body, so that rather than trying to stuff a woman's body into an ill-fitting definition, we have the definition work with what the woman's body does. And the amazing thing is that when you have this whole notion of frigidity or a woman being anorgasmic flies out the window. And what it's replaced with is an entire lifetime journey of discovering who you are and how your particular orgasm works. Woo!
Okay, so over time, OneTaste became more than a wellness program. Former members have described a culture that required increasing levels of commitment. And that's always the problem.
Yeah.
You needed to spend more time, you needed to spend more money, and you needed to have more emotional investment. And here's the thing. It wasn't just classes. They had a communal living space. So if you wanted to really delve into this practice, if this was your spiritual meditation, if this was where you were going, then you would move in to their Folsom Street warehouse and you were assigned a bed with somebody, and
Just a random person?
just a person. And there was lots of open sex and lots of oming and makeout sessions. And so like if after an ohm, a woman did not have to do anything, didn't have to shake the man's hand, didn't have to say thank you, didn't have to do nothing. There was nothing. Just like, all right, it's over, 15 minutes, high five, right?
Yeah.
But if they wanted to go further in their experience, then they could have what they called a makeout session, which it could be making out or it could just be sex. So it was on the table if you wanted
It
it.
sounds a very thin line of a brothel.
Very thin. But I mean, they were all living together.
Yeah,
so
I know. But
some days it was 2 per bed. Some days it was 4 per bed. You know, like there was just lots of, open doors. There was no walls. So you could see the bed in front of you. And if they were so it was all very open. There was no walls, no doors.
This also sounds like a nightmare.
Their first warehouse, there wasn't even a door for the bathroom. So like they had to like use the toilet in the bathroom.
Absolutely not.
And absolutely
lost me.
not. Absolutely not. No. That was that to me sounded like they did upgrade from that. But that was their first, that was like their first 12 bed communal living space, like, and when I say 12 bed, it was yoga mats, little futon mattresses in the yoga studio. Like it wasn't meant for that until they got bigger and they moved to a bigger space. It still didn't have walls. They didn't want the walls. It was just very open. There was a loft, but it's now a BDSM dungeon. Anyway,
but not owned by her.
But not owned by her.
Okay.
One of the old people though own it. Yeah.
Okay.
And he's in the documentary Orgasm Inc. on Netflix. So courses would start to escalate in cost. Advancement often meant deeper immersion. So, okay, we'll give you this class, but you have to work for us. And so part of that was like living in the commune, right? And working to pay off your courses. So discomfort was always reframed as growth. Okay. We hear that a lot, right?
You mean like if
you're uncomfortable, you're growing.
Okay.
Yeah. Just live in that discomfort. Doubt was framed as resistance.
Okay.
And while participants were told they could say no to anything, former members later described feeling that saying no meant failing or falling behind or losing community. And that's an important distinction. It's similar to, I think, a domestic violence and intimate partner violence situation, right? Like you don't want to say no because you know what's gonna happen, right?
Right.
In a domestic violence situation, it's sometimes physical, sometimes financial. There is a consequence for your behavior. In a communal living situation, there was a very clear: you're in and you're out. You're either all the way in or you're out.
Yeah.
And if you say no, if you don't want to own with the stranger who just walked up off the street, who's 60 years old and you're 22, if you don't want to, then you must think that you're better, that you're made of gold and, therefore you're kind of shunned and nobody wants that.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody. It is a like primitive, my psychiatrist told me this. It is a primitive need to belong, because if you don't belong, you die.
Yeah.
Right? In primitive times, if you were not a part of a group, you would die. And so there's that super primitive need in all of us to belong. And if we are shunned, if we are pointed out, if we are not included, it hurts. And I don't think that can be devalued. I think that should be, I think that's important
Well, and I'm
take into
sure
consideration.
a lot of these people probably gave up their living situations, their jobs or whatever to be here. And if they get shunned, they have nothing. Like,
You just nailed it. Yes, 100%. Yeah, they gave up everything to be here.
I don't blame them for being there. Like they had no idea that that's what it was going to become.
They had no idea. And a lot of people who worked for OneTaste would have, a sort of moving target as far as pay scale. If you do X amount in sales, you get paid this much. Oh, but now it's, if you do this, you have to do that. Like it just changed all the time. It was always a moving target, which is, there are labor laws against that. You need to have a very, well thought out payment plan. And if you're not paying people, like what's happening?
Yeah.
So people were making little to no money while living in New York, San Francisco, LA.
So she was all over.
She was all over.
Okay.
Yeah. So most people who later described being coerced didn't feel coerced in the moment. They felt committed. And it wasn't until later that they would see the manipulation and things like that. So in 2018, Bloomberg, I was right about the year, published a major investigation that changed how OneTaste was seen publicly. They had been covered before. People were going and actually doing OHMs and writing about it. I think Gawker and all these tech, it was a very tech heavy idea.
Yeah.
And because of where it was. But former employees and participants described manipulation around consent, significant debt taken on to pay for courses, emotional and psychological harm, and in an environment that felt increasingly controlling. One of the things that happened was that they started to get these very big, very rich investors. And these investors wanted to participate in OHM. But then it became a very specific, like then Nicole would be their person, right? Like, so Nicole would basically be dating them or have sexual relations with them,
the investors,
with the investors when she kind of got tired of it, or she needed help. Like she couldn't do it all by herself all the time. So she would have the other women who could satisfy him, and they would sort of swap, right? Like you take over now. I'm done for a little bit, like for the week or whatever.
Yeah.
They would have these like super elaborate and he was all about kink. These crazy sort of eyes wide shut type of you can sort of imagine it, right? And she did Dante's Inferno, but with sex. It is too much to explain. It is too much to explain, but it was very naughty. It's a lot.
And that's not what people signed up for, right? Like
it is not what people signed up for. It is not.
Like they did not know that this was coming, right?
They
like,
did not know this was coming. But it was like, this is our investor. This is how we're living.
Yeah, like do this or
he's helping us grow. He's helping us bring this message to the world. And what's a little bit of, we're all doing it at home anyway. It's kind of like, let's live fancy free, right? And there was just a lot of shaming if you didn't. If you were a lesbian, you were shamed for being a lesbian because then you wouldn't participate, and maybe you need to work on yourself so that you're not a lesbian anymore, kind of thing. So she was so manipulative and so abusive, and so imagine not just this one investor, there were multiple investors, and it wasn't just, one guy coming up off the street. It happened all the time. It's like, oh, we're six women short, you, and you could like not be in the mood. You could not want to do it, but you better not say no, because you're going to hear about it. You're going to get shamed. You're going to be put on the hot seat. And they actually did the hot seat. Do you remember the one cult in Santa Monica
Where they would insult each other?
Yes. So they what were they called again?
Oh, I don't remember, but I remember
It
thinking.
starts with an S. Oh, I can't remember. Anyway, but they put you on the hot seat and they kind of read you, right? And they do that to you. And terrible. So later that year, in 2018, Bloomberg reported that the FBI was probing OneTaste. So this started almost at the same exact time, examining whether the company pressured workers into unpaid labor or sexual activity tied to business interests. Synanon, thank you. OneTaste denied any wrongdoing, but their scrutiny intensified and physical locations were closed. Like their crazy ass commune. Like they had to be like, we better shut this down. So the company rebranded, and the story moved from controversial wellness company into something much, much, much more serious. So by the time this case reached a federal courtroom, it had already been years in the making. In 2023, prosecutors in the Eastern District of New York charged Nicole Daedone and former OneTaste executive Rachel Cherwitz with forced labor conspiracy. Now, Rachel was her right hand. Rachel was her bulldog. Rachel was the attack dog. Rachel was the one, in any cult, the deity, the leader, the whatever, has to sort of get out of the day-to-day, the muck.
Yeah.
Right? All of those operations and just sort of be this aloof angel, right? Sort of existing like, oh, she is everything, right? And you have to go through channels to get to her. She's not as accessible as she used to be. Rachel was that person. Rachel was that, like, I'm going to give out the orders. So it almost like whatever came out of Rachel's mouth was law because it came from Nicole, right? And so they did everything together. But Rachel was also not super nice. She did some shit, right? And she was a part of that shunning and the shaming, and she was a part of that. And she would, the expectations that you sell more, was her. Anyway, at trial, the government argued that this wasn't about unconventional sexual practices, because it wasn't. It was about control. And jurors had heard testimony describing a system where members were encouraged to take on extreme debt to pay for courses. They were told, like, just pull out your credit card and put the $10,000 class on there, So immediately people were going into debt without having the job to pay for it, because they're not getting paid. So they're just going into more and more debt. They were pressured to work long hours without pay. They were monitored through housing arrangements and internal reporting. So if you could give her the tea, if you could spill the tea on somebody and that she could use something against someone, like what's her vulnerable point? And then when they start to have doubt or when they start to pull away, they could be like, oh yeah, well, Kat, what about that childhood sexualhood trauma?
It's like bring them back from worth there.
Right. It's like to bring them back.
Fucked.
Just to whittle you down, to shame you so much, to make you doubt everything that you think you know. And so that she's the only one that knows anything. You must trust her.
I just feel like if the point was women empowerment and therapy, wouldn't you want these women to be getting this therapy and like grow and like leave? Isn't that the whole point?
It's like, what happened? They took such a simple idea and then just blew it up and tried to do something else. Like, just take the one thing, take the orgasmic meditation and throw away everything else. Have it be like Bikram yoga. Oh, that's a bad example because he was all about abuse. Have it be about just regular old yoga or Pilates,
Yeah.
Just normal well-lit place, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And she talks about, I mean, she was in San Francisco. There was a place called Good Vibrations, which was a sex shop. You would go in, you could buy, different toys, vibrators. There were videos. There was, all the accoutrement that you need, right? And it was bright, well lit, big windows, friendliest female staff you'd ever know. I mean, it was like you were walking into a Walgreens, right? And then it would just be like, what's that? And then they would tell you, and there was no shame and there was no laughing or snickering. It was all like, it was educational. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even know what that is, And so she was there, and this existed, and this was a very popular place.
Yeah.
It was in my neighborhood. And, so she goes, that's what I want. I want it to be this well-lit, super happy place. Everybody's welcome. You can just sort of like, there it is. Just come off the street and you're here. And there's no shame and there's no snickering at the female body. It's just, here we are. This is sacred, right? We're not going to laugh about it. We're going to learn something, and this is it. But they were just trying to make money, and it ruins everything. So prosecutors emphasize that consent, in their view, was not meaningful when someone's housing, someone's finances, their social standing, and sense of belonging were all on the line. So if you are not free to say no, then you are not free to say yes.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Do you get it? The defense countered that OneTaste was built on consent, that participation was voluntary, and that some former members were reinterpreting past choices through regret. They framed the case as one driven by media sensationalism and cultural discomfort with women's sexuality, which I just don't think is the case. Ultimately, jurors were asked to decide a very narrow but heavy question. Did this system cross the legal line into coercion and forced labor? That was the question to the jury. And in June 2025, the jury answered yes. Daedone and Rachel Cherwitz were convicted of forced labor conspiracy, and each now faces the possibility of significant prison time. So before the verdict in November of last year, 2024, Nicole Daedone gave an exclusive interview to NBC News. She said she would absolutely testify at her trial. She called the allegations definitely not true, in quotes, and described, she was so well-spoken, I don't know why that was the quote, and described the indictment as boilerplate, a cut and paste case. She insisted that OneTaste was 100% rooted in consent, saying participants were repeatedly told that they could say no at any point. She described ethics committees, internal guidelines, and a mission she said stood in direct opposition to exploitation. When asked about comparisons to cults, including Nexium, Daedone said she wasn't surprised, framing the criticism as cultural discomfort with women owning their sexuality. And her attorney argued the case was driven by sensational media coverage and the Me Too movement, because this was all around then. At the time, Daedone acknowledged she could face up to 20 years in prison, but said she stood by her beliefs. Why all of this matters. So, one side says consent was foundational. The other says consent was compromised. So this case forces uncomfortable questions. What does it mean when someone is deeply in debt? What does consent mean? When someone is deeply in debt? What does consent mean when housing or community is on the line? And what does consent mean when saying no feels like failing? Does it exist?
I feel like she had such a good thing going, and then she just had to ruin it. I just don't.
I don't think.
I don't understand how it's still going today. You said it's
well, it is. It's still going. I think her idea was never altruistic. It was never done with pure heart. I think she always wanted to be rich. I think she wanted the next big thing. I don't think that she was truly trying to spread a gospel,
Yeah.
right? Otherwise, why would you do the things that you did? I think she wanted power. I think she
Yeah.
wanted control. She is very charismatic. I listened to 5 seconds of her and I was like, oh, I would be her friend. Or like, oh yeah, I get it. I would follow her. Like,
Yeah.
I get it. You know, she's super charismatic. You just look at her and you're just like, yeah, early on, the early
Yeah.
stuff. Until she starts talking about victimhood and all that. No. But she, towards the end at the end of Empire of Orgasm, the book, Ellen Hewitt is in the courtroom when all of this is happening, right? She's in the courtroom, and when she sees Nicole, they had never met, but she knows who Ellen is, right? And Nicole says, oh, Ellen, it's so nice to meet you, and kind of does a hands together and a bow, sort of like a
Yeah.
being very sort of, so she's like, okay, that's interesting. That was an interesting thing. And she's very, very kind in her eyes. And when she looked at you, everyone said when she looked at you, she made you feel like you were the only person in the room. Like she just saw through you and you want to please her. Right. And like, that's like your immediate desire is when she looks at you, you want to please her. You want her approval, which is such a wow to have that, right? Scary. And she kind of takes note that she does a little sort of bow to her. And then when she goes into the courtroom, she's silently using prayer beads and sort of mumbling a prayer to herself, fiddling with these prayer beads. And all of her supporters have these prayer beads.
Oh
like
God.
they're really trying to pull this sort of, I'm a martyr. I'm a saint. Like this is my, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like she fled to Europe. She fled to Italy at some point and took a picture of herself sprawled out on a table at these ruins where women used to have sacred sexual like, I don't know, whatever they're called, like events.
Yeah.
And so she put herself in the middle of those ruins on a table, ready for an ohm. And there's like this whole thing, like she was really trying to paint herself as this next martyr.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, just drives me nuts. That drives me nuts. Like, okay. So she's trying to be like, oh, I'm so innocent. I'm using prayer beads. Because she was taking from every religion, right? She was cherry picking what she liked from Christianity, what she liked from, and now she's all about she wants to write a book on cancel culture, and she's, become a very big voice in like the MAGA movement because of the canceling that has happened because of this case. So consent. Let's talk about consent. In wellness spaces, it matters. In self-help communities, consent matters. In workplaces, it matters. In relationship, it matters, right?
Yeah.
So because consent doesn't vanish all at once, sometimes it erodes slowly under pressure, and it feels invisible until you step outside of it. Or if you're looking at it from the outside and looking at what's happening to somebody, and you can be like, this isn't right. But they were isolated and they were insular. They were only amongst themselves. Yeah. What makes OneTaste so unsettling isn't just what happened, because I'm not even getting into all of the things that happened, but you can just sort of, you have an idea.
Just question. I know consent, but I don't know how to say it. Were there like a lot of rapes that happened in this communal?
Yes. So, great question. Cause I didn't get into a lot of it. There was a whole teaching that there was like an inner beast in you. There was a beast. Men had a beast. Some women, but mainly men. There was a beast. So when that beast comes out, it's not violence. They're not being violent. It's their beast. So if that's the teaching to allow the men's inner beast to come, that's your teaching, then you're sort of teaching that your physical imposition on a woman's body, your taking of a woman and making her have sex with you, if that's not considered violent, if that's not considered an assault, but just your beast coming out, and the woman is too sensitive, or she hasn't gotten over her victimness. I don't know.
Trauma.
Or like her own, no, like
Yeah.
if she can't get sexy with you, then that's her fault.
Wow.
So there were a lot of, like, if your beast is coming out, then I need to get sexy with you so that I'm not raped. Do you understand? Like, I?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Like men encroaching on women's spaces, going into their rooms, the touching, the grabbing, the forced sex, all of it. It happened in these communal spaces.
Yeah.
And it was, if you complained about it, then you were shunned. If you had a problem with it, then you were made to feel like you should have just gotten turned on. A turned on woman can't be raped. A turned on woman can't experience that trauma. God. So if you're always turned on, then nothing can hurt you. Right?
Yeah, that's crazy.
So
to me.
That was the teaching within the communal living community. And so it made for very, very bad times for some people.
Yeah.
There are people who are afraid of talking on the record. There are people who did not want, because they were fearing retaliation. There were people who did talk in the documentary. It was sort of nice to put a face with the names that were in the book, and they didn't even get into what was the book is so much more detailed. I highly recommend it. It's great. She reads it. Ellen Hewitt reads it. And just having her, she was that first reporter and then sat in the courtroom all the way through. But it really does get into these stories where you're like, dude, that's some fucking emotional, mental abuse happening on so many people for so many different reasons. And it was sort of like, you know what? You're kind of being a bitch today. Go and have sex with everyone, go and have sex with a different person every day for the next 30 days.
I would imagine in this communal living, the women did not matter because they weren't the ones bringing the money.
They were the ones bringing the money, but it was sort of like fishing in Children of God, right? They would go out and just, their little shirts and, orgasm expert, and just kind of like, come on. And then they would try to figure out who the rich guy was. Ooh, I brought in a whale, and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So they were used for their sex.
Gotcha. Okay.
And is that what they signed up for? It starts to go, but she would give, you're bothering me. You know what? You two are fighting. Why don't you go have sex and don't come back until you have.
Wow.
And, I don't like you, so you have to have sex with somebody every day for the next month. Or, blah, 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 blah. You have to have this many partners in the next 24 hours. That's just what.
Yeah.
And that was early. That was early. So if you're okay, if you're sticking around, because when I say, this is to help you grow. And if that's okay with you, the boundary keeps getting pushed and pushed and pushed. And then it becomes the crazy Dante's Inferno, seven layers of sex. I don't know. It was just nuts.
Yeah.
Like the descriptions of it. And I think she even did, I don't know. There's several themed events like this, and just like, what? I think they did a Wizard of Oz one. I don't even know. I can't explain that one, but crazy.
Yeah.
Just crazy. So the BBC has a podcast called The Orgasm Cult. Great podcast. It's very short little episodes. I'm not even through with all of them. I think quite a few. But one of the things I like about this podcast is that it asks the questions about like scientifically, how is any of this true? And scientifically, the study of female orgasm is 100% like, it's so hard to study because, you know, women move. And so they can't get all, you know, like having those things on your heads, you have to have, like, you have to be still, and you can't, you know, being still during an orgasm isn't necessarily very easy to do. And so studying this is very, it's very tricky. And so if something like this, because they really did consider themselves to be researchers, but they weren't doing a whole lot of research. The idea that this could be a research opportunity is there. So scientifically, there were some things that, you know, the 10,200 something nerve endings on the left side of your clitoris, you know, like this is all important information. How many people knew that? Yeah. I didn't realize it was in the left-hand quadrant at like 1 o'clock. I didn't know that. Yeah. I'm totally different. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't just never paid attention to that kind of stuff, I guess. Yeah. But like the science behind this actually exists. And so I think that they were trying to use that, and it could have been something legitimate, Yeah. And they just weren't. The other thing is that they talk about is like, why would this even exist? Like, why is this existing? Why are these self-help in the wellness space? Why is this $1 billion industry? And they kind of talked about two different things. Like, one, as women, we go to the doctor and we're like, you know, we have all these sort of vague pains and aches, and they don't really know what to do with us, right? As someone with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, I spent most of my life having people go, I don't know what's wrong with you. I don't know what's wrong with you. Until Grey's Anatomy in 2016, right? Until Grey's Anatomy in 2016 showed somebody who was like me. And then that's how I got diagnosed. Isn't that crazy? That's just nuts. I remember that, yeah. But the idea that women can go into a doctor and get exactly what we need, or be told that we're crazy, it's all in your head, women for centuries, probably have not been listened to about their bodily functions because it's weird, right? Yeah. And so women have been going off and trying to find their own solutions and coming up with holistic ways to feel better, to do things to feel better. So women really do own this space. But it's also like rooted in the fact that like people are veering away more and more from organized religion. And so they're looking for something to fill that void of sort of having like an answer for something. And so this is like the perfect storm for people to get sucked up into something like OneTaste. Yeah. Women looking to feel better, women looking for something to fix what's wrong with them, and not finding it in a conservative church, or, so wanting to heal, wanting to fix past trauma, and seeing this and going, this sounds perfect. This sounds exactly like what I need. And you don't have to decide whether OneTaste is a cult or not. I think it, to some, it could be because of the practices, but to others, like we can kind of see the teachings might not have been so bad. It's like, I think this is probably like the one thing, like the core teaching, the first thing that they wanted to teach, if they had just stuck with that, would have been not so bad. The rest of it sucks. So not into it, but they should have been able to exist freely. And from day one, they weren't. There were rules on their sexuality. And like, if you're trying to have empowerment, then why are there rules? So all that being said, I know I talked a lot about sex, but so if there are resources in our show notes if any of this triggered or made you feel uncomfortable or anything like that, or brought up some confusion, some anger, if you recognize anything. This thing still does exist. They are under a different name now. So if you go to Eros, EROS platform.com, it is Eros Platform by OneTaste. And it still exists.
I'm afraid to bring this up on my
Oh, it's nothing. It's, like I said, it's very well
It was
lit.
more about the algorithm that's going to happen.
Oh, it's very well lit and pretty. You know, it very, you can go on to YouTube. Vice News does a how to orgasmic meditation part 1, and you can kind of see the sort of basics of it. They're pretty open about what the posture looks like and all that kind of stuff. They still promote Nicole.
This bitch.
They still promote Nicole. What?
On the website, she's got a book called Jailbirds in Flight. Everything you've wanted to know about enlightenment in prison, but we're afraid to ask.
Yeah.
She is just milky.
She is milking it. And she's like trying to turn the prison, you know, to turn them into sort of monks or something. I don't know.
To a monastery.
Monastery. Yeah. This thing is still very much real. She sold the company, but she is still very much the teacher. You know, it's her word. It's her. She's written a lot of books, and so that's still their teachings. Despite all the you know, all the things. So you can learn to ohm. You can take an online class. You can join in person. I don't know how much it is, but
They have a retreat coming up.
oh, do they? How much is that?
I don't know. I'm afraid to click the button, but it's December 29th through January 1st.
Where did you go? Were you on the homepage?
$595 for an individual, or buy one, get one half off for 2 people.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't know.
oh, okay.
It's just to contact Rachel with questions. So Rachel is, I guess, running the show still.
She's very much running the show. Her face is all over it. She's gotten a lot of work done. But yeah, I mean, she's got a TEDx talk. It's a lot. There's just a lot to learn. This was this was an educational experience for me and an emotional experience for me to go through this, read this book, watch the documentary, listen to podcasts. I mean, I think I spent maybe the first half of the book going, there must be something wrong with me. like what? This just sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah.
But when, you know, to hear the people who did join OHM and who were living at OneTaste that first time, you know, like when they were like, oh no, this is horrible. But they were like willing to face why is it horrible? Why does it feel horrible? Like, am I really open in my sexual life with my partner? And there's so many great things to come from that. If you can find that deeper meaning and find that connection with your partner or, you know, for the next partner. But everything that happened is just so wrong. And
yeah,
you know,
they go into detail on their website about how this is different from sex and masturbation. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because everyone's clothed. It's, you know, there are other people in the room with you. If you're doing it in person, if you go to the studio, it's all like,
yeah, it's all about personal growth on their website.
I mean, that's what it's always.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then it's sales. So maybe their retreats aren't $16,000, $36,000, $60,000 a year membership. I don't know if that still exists, but holy moly, you know, if does it?
I don't know. There's a thing that says work with an expert, deepen intimacy, enliven desire, turn on, and there's a package.
They have an OHM app even, so you can time yourself.
They have practice OHM training, practice Eros coaching.
So New York, December 29th through today. Mm-hmm. So January 1st, they're going to have, oh gosh, she's had so much work done.
So the 3-session training is $390. The private coaching 3 sessions is, well, they have 3 sessions, 5, and then they have an advanced package where you have to contact them to get pricing.
If you're not gonna put it on the website, you can't afford it.
The 5 sessions is $790.
Wow, that's, you know.
So maybe they've like gone down because of the heat, but they're still definitely pricey.
That's pricey.
It's definitely crazy if you look at their website. And I'm not encouraging anyone to. I'm just saying.
You know. But it's like I'm sitting there watching videos about how to ohm, and Jason comes walking up behind me, and I'm just like, this isn't, let me put that on pause.
Yeah.
Because intellectually I'm thinking about it. I'm not seeing it as sexual. Like, it's just intellectually I'm thinking about it. And so
I feel like if you were sexually abused in life, this would be just so uncomfortable for you. Like,
but
I get the point.
To get past the trauma of it, I
just feel like it would re-traumatize.
Right. And so why can't it be with someone you trust?
Yeah.
Why can't it be your one partner? And
Yeah.
so maybe that's different as well. And so it's like, if you could get to that point with your partner.
Yeah.
So that you're breaking through those, so that you can enjoy sex,
Yeah.
and that you
See, that would make sense to me.
Right.
For couples, to sell it as a thing for couples.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That would be amazing. But yeah, in the concept that it is the communal living, all that shit that they did, the rapes, all of that's just, why? Like, you had something so great, and you just had to, like, be so greedy.
Greedy. And here she is, though. This is still paying for her. I know, right? Ugh.
And I feel like it's different because she's a woman. I feel like if she was a man, this would have already been shut down.
And doesn't it take away that, like, women just need to be in charge, because then all of this would end? No, women can be just as big of assholes.
Yeah.
So that sort of kills that whole thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, we went really over.
I
But
know.
What you got for us next week?
I don't know. It's not going to be. It's not going to be on this level. I'll tell you that much. It'll probably be a disappearance because I don't know.
Let's just bring it back to normal. Sort of a palate cleanser.
It will most likely, knowing me, it will be a disappearance just because I like them. I like to bring awareness to them.
Palate cleanser. That's all. Hey, if you're still listening, thanks.
We love you.
We love
so
you.
Much, and we appreciate you. Non-sarcastically, we love you.
100%. And like, I wish that I could hear all of you guys talking back at us. Like, I want to hear what you guys have to say about this, because to me, this is such a big topic. Like, I think this is like the one cult that I'm like, well,
you can message us on Facebook. You can leave us voicemails on our website.
Yeah, talk to us, man.
Please leave them for Kat, because this is her story. I'd just like to point that out. I had nothing to do with this. I was present.
You agreed I could do it. I asked your permission.
Yeah, but I just heard the first part about the therapy. I didn't hear all the rest of it.
This is great.
Yeah, I don't understand the problem here, Kat. And then
Sign me
you didn't
up.
tell me about the rest of it.
All right, everybody. We will see you next week. Until then, be kind, please, to everybody and yourself. And we will see you. Oh, and if you see something,
Say something.
say something.
Yes.
All right. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.